welcome back to the channel. My name's Adrian. Today I'm going to be doing my review of Sons of Russ, which is the latest expansion that is on pre-order already on Cubicle 7's website. This was announced, I think it was probably teased 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it got me really excited because though I don't know much about the Warhammer 40k world, as in from a lore point of view, the faction I've always been attracted to the most is the Sea Wolves. So I was absolutely delighted when I saw the Cubicle 7s that this is the first lot of Space Marines lore book they're bringing out. And actually going through the book, I've learned so much about the Sea Wolves because, hey, I love the imagery because, you know, big fan of Norse mythology, and I like the idea of Space Marines, but I'm not a painter, and I'm not a mini player because I don't know anyone to play minis with, so I've never really got into it, but I really appreciate it from afar, which is why Wrath and Glory for me is my sort of 40k sort of Space Marine game, especially when they bought out Vow of Absolution, which allowed 5th tier play, so the full, what I feel like the full Space Marine experience, which... Let's just do a quick first impression. I was quite surprised when I went through this book that there wasn't a single tier 5 archetype. So yeah, the sort of Vow of Absolution, they bought out, you know, his Space Marines, and then they went, here's a real Space Marine book, faction, and you can't get to tier 5 in it. The other thing you'll notice very quickly is page count. This does come in under 100 pages. So is there enough in here to justify the price tag? So let's just start with the price tag. So what I'll do is I'll take you over to Cubicle 7's page. So say it's available for pre-order now. It's due out Q1 in physical copies next year. I must say the collector's edition does look amazing. There's a bundle here, but yeah, £28 give or take. I don't know what that's going to be in US dollars. I don't know where it's sort of the equivalent becomes like 28 US dollars. I don't really know. Or you can pick up the PDF for $16.99. Sorry to do this, Cubicle 7, but if you are going to pick up the PDF only, it is slightly cheaper on TTRPG, and I will put my affiliate link in. So if you're looking for PDF only, please do consider using my affiliate link, because any money generated on there, I put back into the channel to buy more things to basically bring more reviews. Just to be honest on this, Cubicle 7 have actually sent me a review copy. One thing that I always find a little bit annoying with the PDF copies that Cubicle 7 send out, or when you buy them, is you don't actually get to look at the back page of the book. I don't know why it's missed out. So if you want to pick up the back page of the book, I'll just click in here so you get a good idea of what's included. So let's just have a quick bit of the art. Obviously, I'm going to go through, take you through page by page and sort of show you my sort of thoughts and feelings. Here we get the back of the book, and it will just give you a sort of nice quick rundown of what's in here. So we've got new archetypes in here, some additional psychic powers, some wargear and relics, and technically they feel like magic items. We've got the Champions of Fenris, which is 6 NPCs, which are high-ranking sea wolves, and they are going to also have each one of them gives 2 adventure hooks, so give you good ideas. So that's under 12 sort of adventures if you're going to be playing the sea wolves. And then finally, round about a third of the book is a 4-part adventure that's, say, it's broken up into 4 different acts. I think looking at it, it's probably sort of 6 to 10 hours sort of runtime, but it does say here it's exciting adventure for tier 4 to 5 adventure, but it doesn't offer any tier 5 archetypes, which again, I think is quite interesting. So let's just get into the core book. Well, obviously, let's just start with the front cover, which I think you'll agree is great. You know, I say that this as a faction, this is the faction that appeals to me the most. I've always loved the artwork. I love the fact most of them don't seem to wear helmets, and it's just very Norse mythology. They are a faction that just wants, you know, a group of Space Marines that just, they believe in almost standing face to face with their opponents and hitting them with axes and daggers, and they've got all these wonderful frost weapons and stuff. I'd love to play it. I'd love someone to go, hey, I've got a massive amount of Space Marines, come to my house and come and play, because and obviously all painted up and look nice. But yeah, it's just something that's never happened. Say this page count here comes in at 96 pages, but really I think DriveThruRPG's got it down as 93. It's designed and developed by Dominic McDowell and Christopher Coulson, and then a variety of other sort of editors, illustrators, and then the whole of the Cubicle 7 team is here. breakdown of the content. So we've got Sons of Russ, which is the background, as you'd imagine, to Space Marines. The new archetypes, as you can see, there's a lot of archetypes finally ending in the Wolfen as well, which I didn't even know what they were. And I was sort of reading, we'll come on to the Curse of the Wolfen, and the fact that they are included as a playable archetype. Not sure I want anyone necessarily playing them. If you're aware of the lore, you probably feel the same, but they very much feel sort of Troll Slayer in essence, which again, it's the archetype from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay that I know everyone wants to play. I don't always want them in my adventures. Then we've got the Champions of Fangs. So these are the 6, say, NPCs that go from Logan, who's the big boss that, and he's over 500 years old, so he's been around for a long time, very experienced. And say each of them will give 2 adventure hooks and get some new psychic powers for the priest, as well as some specific talents for the Space Wolves. Armory section is great. These frost weapons, I really enjoy reading stat blocks for weapons. I don't know what it is about me, I just do. We've got the new wargear here as well, and then some information about dreadnoughts, which always look amazing to me on tables when I see them. And then finally we've got the adventure. I'm not going to cover the adventure in this. I will give you a brief summary when we get to it. Reason for that is because 2 people on my Discord have asked me to run this, and they want me to specifically run this module and the adventure. So I need to recruit a couple more people to actually run it. The adventure, I think it's about 6 to 10 hours. It basically starts off world, and then the Space Wolves are requested to go to a specific planet, and it gives that really wonderful Norse mythology feel, because it does start in a feast. And there's so I think when you go through it, it's quite good because it's got hints and tips. So you could do it as a nice 4-part murder hobo if that's the way you want to play it. There's a lot of opportunity for social encounters, or blast the way through. Most of the bad guys are greenskins, so who doesn't like hobo murdering orcs? And then finally, when you get to Act 4, there are 3 specific different strategies to conclude the adventure, and they are completely, laid out for the players. You possibly could do a different route, but I think the players are probably going to stick to one of the 3, and it just sort of breaks it down and say, I don't think it's a long. I think I could probably get this done in a couple of sessions, just depending on the experience of the players and how fast the combats will go. So say if you are interested in joining that, then please do join my Discord. I'll put a link in the video description on there. So let's get into the rest of the book. So here's the background into the Sons of Russ. So, and I really enjoyed this because, as my favourite group of Space Marines or faction, I don't know very much about them, and it's only a few pages in here, but it really allowed me to actually finally understand a lot about them. So Russ was the first ever sea wolf, very loyal to the Emperor, and they were kind of used because he was sort of like this berserk assassin type, very loyal person that would just be sent on any sort of mission and he would just take it. The thing I found interesting is they all come from one planet, which is called Fenris here. So the Space Wolves are the Sky Warriors, demigods of the realm of Asahelm, who sail the seas. Their world is brutal. It talks about the world Fenris in here as well, which I know nothing about them. It's really good that they can get so much lore into such only a few pages, because I'd imagine if I picked up one of the proper Games Workshop books, that's probably going to be quite dense in here. There's actually some also some painting hints and tips in here for the sort of shoulder pads as well, which is quite good, which I'll show you as we get on to it. But from Leman Russ, I like this bit. So the Space Marines inherited a formidable yet volatile genetic legacy. They possess keen senses, hunting instincts of a predatory beast, canine teeth that continue to grow in length as the warrior age, and feral aggression of natural-born hunters, which is cool. I'd say they always felt that way in the artwork, but I didn't know that was actually some of the character traces that they all come with. The planet itself is incredibly brutal. It has months and seasons of frost and ice and frozen lakes and cities. And then suddenly the sun will crack out, and I think it's called the Wolf's Eye, it seems to be here. And then suddenly the temperature will dramatically change, and they'll have volcanoes and heat and stuff. So it's an utterly barbaric world to live in. And they all sort of live pretty much in Asserheim, which is the sort of the rock. It feels like very much a rock that they live on. And the main sort of battlements or castle they all live here is called the Fang, which has been tried to be attacked several times, and they've always managed to fight off every single attack. And it talks about an assault here from Magnus the Red, who's a demon primarch of the traitorous Thousand Sons. And again, I don't know much about him. Well, I know that's what his name is, but that's all I know. But you just get this idea of they've got this fortress that they all train and live in that's utterly impenetrable, because, say, for thousands of years, no one's ever managed to come in. There are 12 companies. This is a little bit sad. So there was a 13th company of Space Wolves that disappeared. So I need to go and find out about that lore, because I just want to. It doesn't tell you anything about why they disappeared or really anything about the 12 different companies. But each chapter will have a Wolf Lord, which is the sort of overseer, and they will name it what they want. I like the fact that it says, when all of the Great Wolves come together, this is also the seating position that they all sit in, and there's always a gap here, which is, it's cool. It's like really honourable. Got the Trials of Morkai, which is basically how the Space Marines become Space Marines, and just showing the brutality and the toughness and how hard it is to become a Space Marine. But they are effectively given this Canis Helix here, which mutates their body. It's the thing that allows them to grow additional hair, they grow the fangs and stuff like that. It becomes stronger and enraged. And actually, not all of them survive. Some of them will actually become mad and then become wolfen, where others just don't actually survive it. So if the planet's not killing them, and the Canis Hexus doesn't kill them, that's why they are so powerful and so frightening, I think, on the battlefield. They also look at things in sort of sagas as opposed to adventures. So they will look at things over a period of time for the success of any of their combatants. It's all based on heroism and, trying to get that epic death and legacy. Obviously, they'd prefer to survive and just keep fighting, it feels. But yeah, it's that Nordic feel to it, which I really do like. And then finally, before we get into the sort of player options, we've got this Curse of the Wolf in here, which I was quite surprised that when it talks about, they are ferocious in nature, you can just kind of drop them in a battlefield and they're just going to keep fighting until they either run out of steam, run out of enemies, or die. And that's a player option. So it's very much Troll Slayer for Warhammer Fantasy role-playing, which I'm really surprised to actually see them there. Just before we get into the archetypes, you're going to get your role-playing backgrounds. You're going to get a D3. You're going to do it 3 times, and that's going to give some Space Wolf backgrounds, and then you do a D6 for your objectives. If you're struggling for names, name-generator tables I always find deeply appreciative. And this wonderful art here, with this I'm going to say dude just sat on this wolf, is brilliant. And again, this is the other thing I really like about it. I am a big fan of wolves. And being a fan of wolves, they are included. So all the stats here for a Fenrisian wolf, it's obviously not a playable character, but it is something that you can play alongside your character as well, which is really good. And they get this packed instinct as a bonus. So while within 5 meters of an ally, the wolf gains +1 to weapon skill and +1 damage on successful melee attacks, which are claws and teeth attacks. Exactly how wolves you'd expect them to be. So let's get into the archetypes. Bloodclaw. This is for this is tier 3 archetype, and it is for the young, enthusiastic sea wolves. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about the archetypes, but I will talk about their archetype ability here. So they get the Fury of the Pack. So their youthful rage burns hotter than the Forge of Fenris. So once per combat, when you charge or make your first melee attack in the scene, you may unleash the fearsome attacks. So when they're within 10 meters of an enemy, they're going to get +1 to their melee attack, or enemies with 10 must make a wisdom check. So it's quite nice that they get that option. But most of these feel very much about, so it's that feel I have with the Space Marines, that they just want to be up close, smelling people's breaths as they're hacking them with swords and axes. The Grey Hunters, again staying at tier 3, but these are the older, more accomplished, experienced fighters in here, and they're going to get the Oath of the Wolf. So lessons of sagas, but once per combat, when an ally is within 5 meters is attacked, you may interpose yourself, so becoming the target instead of them. So you can just sort of step in and take the damage. We've got the Wolf Guardian Head Taker here, which is the first tier 4 one, and their duty is to break through the lines and then go and seek out the leaders and the caretakers of whoever their opponents are. So your name is carved into the scores you claim. So their whole thing is about basically picking out a person, get within 10 meters of them, and being able to do additional damage to them. And I just like the fact that, you know, that's the guy I'm going for. You lot all fight, I'm going to go and seek out that person. The Wolfguard Terminators, these tend to be the most heroic of the Space Wolves, and it just seemed to apply. I think these are more of the leader types as well, and they're going to get the Living Bulwark. Once per combat, you may spend a point of glory to ignore all damage from one successful attack made against you, and allies within 3 meters gain +1 to defense while adjacent to you. So yeah, you're just going to be wading in, doing all this awe-inspiring stuff, and you know you're going to take that big crit one day and go brush it off. So yeah, that's quite cool, and you get your full Terminator armor, which is cool. The Wolf Scouts, these are sneaky little gits that basically their job is to use stealth and stealth ability to sort of, again, maneuver around the battlefield to go and seek out and attack people, because if they are fighting from in cover, they're going to get additional damage to their attacks. Skyclaws are cool. I didn't know these things existed, and these have got these Skyclaw assault packs, which can help them jump, like super jump distance. When they make a charging attack using the jump attack, they gain +2 to the melee attacks for that round. If you cause a critical on the charge, you may roll 2 results on the critical table and choose which applies. Who doesn't want to roll twice on critical tables? There's nothing more depressing than rolling on a critical table and rolling badly. Rolling it on advantage, that's great. Finally, before we get on to the 3 priest types and the Wolfen, we've got the Longfang. So these are your really sort of mature, grizzled veterans that have been around a long time. They've seen a lot of battles, and their old age wrath. Age does not dull your fangs. It has taught you where to strike. Once per session, you may roll a failed attack, ranged attack roll, and automatically shift 1 exalted icon. Icon is successful. The only thing that's slightly sad with that is it's only once per session. We now get 3 different types of priests. So the rune priests, they kind of like to hang at the back. We're not saying they're not combatant. They are very good at fighting still. But as a general rule, they're going to be hiding at the back using their psychic abilities. And we've got some really cool psychic abilities we're going to look at in a second, all based around, I think they're all based around sort of weather, thunder, the sort of Norse mythology that you'd expect. We then get the Iron Priest, which I didn't know what to expect from this. I was thinking, is that an actual type of priest? But these aren't. These basically get the voice of the Allfather's forge, and they're very good at fixing machinery and damaged equipment and armor and vehicles. So that's quite cool that that's built into this, you know, the Space Wolves. I just wasn't expecting that to be a thing. And then finally, we get the Wolf Priest, which is effectively your chaplain and your apocryphy. So these are the people that are going to offer healing. And they get this ability that if someone is slain within 5 meters, everyone's going to get +2 ED on melee attacks until the next round. So it's quite a harsh, you know, that someone's going to have to lose a character, or you know, obviously it could just be an NPC, but it's quite cool that it's going to give you a boost, because it does still then encourage that Wolf Priest, because you can heal people, but if someone does go down, then everyone that's near you is going to get a bonus. So it does encourage people to also help and protect the Wolf Priest, which I'm kind of, you know, there's a couple in here that there's definitely a couple in here that I'd really like to play, and the Wolf Priest is probably second in that list, I think. And then finally we get these Wolfen, so I don't think I want these in my game, unless I was running. Actually, it'd be quite good running a game with just these, because then you're not going to get any social interactions. You're just getting full on, let's go for it. I'm not overly sure about the artwork here, but it does say that they are heavily mutated, so that's probably why they look considerably more bestial. But they, as you'd imagine, get the Curseborn Fury. So when they make melee attacks, they shift one exalted icon. You may immediately make an additional melee attack against the same or another adjacent target. And the first time you're reduced to 0 wounds in combat, you may immediately make one last melee attack before failing. So they are just running to the front, well, through the front, and just smacking everything, as you'd expect, very low on the influence. But they are tier 4, so that is quite frightening. That's all your archetypes, and then we're going to get into Champions of the Fangs. So these are 6 different NPCs. So the first one we've got here is Logan Grimdark, who he is the first of the Wolf Lord. So he is basically the main leader. He's been in charge for over 500 years. What I don't want to do, because this video is going to go on for a long time, is talk about their backgrounds. But you will see here, each one of them is going to have, like, so this has got Fury of the Wolf Lord, which gives you an idea of an invention and kind of how they will help look after and guide the players before setting them out on a couple of missions that they've got. And each mission then will have some wargear that they're going to be expected to have in place, as well as a bonus that they're going to receive. Couple of keywords that they're going to have, and they're all like this. So you're going to have to be the Adaptus Astartes, but more importantly, you need the Sea Wolf. So every player is going to be do that. So you couldn't run this. Well, I think you probably could adapt it if you needed to. You know, if you're going to go through any of the sort of the standard from the core rulebook or Vow of Absolution, you want to sort of have the sort of Space Marines in there. I think you probably could, but lore-wise, it is going to give you 12 missions, because you've got 6 NPCs, 2 per NPC. But yeah, all of them will give you a couple of example missions, an idea of what's going on through here as well. But some great artwork in here. And then finally, I think Hackton, yeah, he's the really young one, which is quite cool that he's actually in here. Because I was expecting them initially just to be all of the like similar age, but they're not. They've got some really interesting and varied backgrounds, and it kind of feels like you could just make them like a patron that you get in Imperium Maledictum. You get that sort of overarching person that's going to help send them out on missions. It does give that sort of feel to it. And they are, to say, we've got here a tier 2 to 4 framework. Well, I probably should have said all of them who's got the framework. So when you want to build out the NPCs, it also does tell you what type of archetype they actually are. So you are going to be able to sort of create these and give them stats. You might not want to give them stats, because obviously the problem of giving them stats is players like to kill things with stats. So maybe take the stats out. The Wrath of the Storm is going to give you some specific now powers, well, psychic powers for the priest. We've got 4 of them. So Tempest, Wraths, Windwalker, Howling Frost, Spirit of the Wolf, not in alphabetical order. Not a big thing. It just seems strange that they are not. They're also not in XP order either, so it's just kind of in here. But let's pick on here. Let's go with the Howling Frost. We'll say they all seem to be very sort of weather specific, apart from the Spirit of the Wolf one here. But this is going to call upon the chilling breaths of Fenris himself. The Rune Priest exhales a spectral blizzard that roars forth like the great wolf's cry. The effect of this is all enemies caught within the blast zone take 13 plus 1 ED damage with minus 1 AP, and the chilled condition. Those affected also suffer minus 2 penalty to the next melee as frost bites into their muscles. So as much as they like to stand a little bit away, which it talks about in the character archetype, this has got a range of 30 meters, so you might be far away, but you're still gonna get in close to these. So you've got a couple ones south here. Obviously you can still pick up the psychic ones from the core rule book. We've got 4 additional ones here, and then we've got 6 additional talents that the Space Wolves can pick up. And as you'd expect, the first one here is Berserker Charge. So the effect, when you make a charge action, you may add +2 to your strength to determine the damage for melee attacks as made part of the charge. In addition, if you succeed in the following attack by +3 icons, you may knock the target prone as the impact crashes them into the Fenrisian thunderstorm. I do like that. I'm so looking forward to which books they bring out next. And this is I think it's probably my favourite section, because I do love looking at specific armaments and things like that. But a lot of these have got the frost keyword, which I didn't know existed. Makes sense that it existed, and I'm sure it probably exists in the 40,000 sort of minis games. When you are hit with a weapon, not only will you take the damage from the weapon, but you're going to get a -1 penalty to initiative and agility based tests at the end of your next turn because of the frost that you're going to get. Also, In addition, if the weapon inflicts a critical damage, the target also becomes impaired for 1 round as frostbite and shock sets in. Cool. You can see why they want to sort of get right up close and personal with whoever they're attacking. But you've got the other sort of ranged weapons. If you want to be that type, from bolt sniper rifles here to Hellfrost pistols, Hellfrost cannons, meta rifles, and then a Skyhammer missile right at the bottom. This is the bit I was saying about the painting set. So, we've got 4 different types of armour that will be assigned to the characters, as well as, depending on which sort of sub-faction that you're in, will give you, Blood Claws, and gives you an example here, Grey Wolves, Long Fangs, and Blood Scouts. And then we've got 4 sort of, it's sort of wargear, sort of famous talismans here. So things like runic tattoos, and the tattoos are going to give you a +1 bonus to determine rolls against psychic attacks. We've got a bout of Russ here, so agents gain a +1 to defense and armor in addition to the existing armor or shield they may have. So just be wary about not giving out too many of those, because it's just going to give a static additional bonus. 2 pages on dreadnoughts. I know very little about dreadnoughts. I've never actually ran one in the game or a dreadnought to dreadnought combat, but I know what they look like from the photos on tabletops. I would have liked some artwork here, I think, of the dreadnought. We've got a little bit here about another Primarch that was, and a little bit of history here. I like it. I think I would have liked somewhere a dreadnought piece of art. That's just me. And then finally we got the Fangs of the Beast. I'm even going to scroll back, because the 4 acts, if you pause it and read it, you'll be able to actually see the whole layout of the adventure and the 3 options that the players are going to have at the end. Because I've been asked to run it, I don't want to show it, but it looks fun. I really like the idea of where that adventure is going to sort of start. I'm going to be running it in that sort of Norse mythology. Everyone goes for a feast. There's a lot of tension. Someone wants help, and it sort of talks about the Space Wolves. Do they talk him round, or do they wait? Actually, I'll do the actual bit of the plot. So they are sent there because there is a imminent orc attack coming, and it does say that, it does kind of encourage the players to just go, do you know what, we're Space Wolves, we're not going to wait here for the attack, let's go to them. And that basically is the start of the adventure. And well, obviously, you'd imagine at the end of Act 1, there's going to be a bit of fisticuffs. But it does talk about you can use social encounters to try and use some things. If you don't want to use social encounters, use your fists. Okay, so that's it. That brings me to the end of looking at the book. So what do I think? So let's just start with the elephant in the room. It's a small book. So there's a lot in there. There's a lot in it. Don't take it like I'm not appreciating the information and the lore that I found. And I think it more than gives me the impression and understanding of what the Space Wars are. But I was quite surprised of less than 100 pages. Some of the smaller books that Cubicle 7 have been releasing over the years have been sort of like 120, 115, and that's, I don't know why, once you go to 3 figures, it feels a little bit more. But I think people might just go, there's not a lot in here, as in page count. But I think there's a lot in there within the page count, if that makes sense. The 6 NPCs, given the lore that you can, additional lore, I should say, that you can gain from those NPCs. It's given me really good understanding of what it's like to not only be like the child and growing up before you become the Space Marine, and you take the Canis Helix and if you manage to survive that, there's a little bit where you're actually sent out to become the Space Wolf, where you have to go and survive a season in the wilderness by yourself. And if you survive that, in addition to the Helix, it's just brutal, and I can see why they are the way they are. I'd say the adventure's good. I do like the adventure. So I haven't run it yet, obviously. Looking forward to doing that on my Discord. And it does seem, and I like the fact that the players can actually make the choices, and it sort of gives the choices at the end. They could probably make further choices on that, as I sort of said at the start. Weapons, there's a ton of them. Ton of weapons in there. That additional frost keyword is going to really encourage the players to, well, a lot of the archetype talents are going to encourage the players to want to get right in front of the player, in front of the NPCs and the antagonists. But trigger off that frost keyword to sort of knock down their initiative as well and sort of slow them down. You can do additional stuff, you know, if you do get a critical. Probably plays into how I feel that the Space Wolves should be when they're on the tabletop game. So yeah, I really enjoy this. I don't know what I want to see next. I don't know enough about other, you know, Space Marine factions. I know Death Watch are one, because obviously there was a Games Workshop set of books about Death Watch, so I know a little bit about those, so I wouldn't mind that one coming out. I think there's a is it Grey Knights? Are they the big psychic people? But I don't know a lot. But let me know down which ones you want to see next. I'm now really looking forward to all of these coming out. I'm not concerned about the less than 100 pages page count. I think some people might. There's enough in here for me without bloating that, say, allows me to run a game successfully on what I expect the players to understand and know about Space Wolves. But more importantly, it hasn't taken me a huge amount of time, because, you know, when I think back to the Death Watch books and stuff like that, Games Workshop, where you'd have 100, 200 pages of lore across several books, it was quite intimidated as a game master, sort of read and understand. And this is just enough for me to explain to the players, and then they should be able to create their characters off that. Those archetype talents really will control. So the only thing, some of the artwork was a little bit, I think, hit and miss. I'd like some Dreadnought art in there. I don't think I want more lore. I'm not sure where I feel about the price point, because I did get the PDF for free, but I will be buying the physical copy of this. The adventure hooks coming off the NPCs is incredibly handy. It's just going to give me more detail. Say they are my favourite faction. Maybe that is having a little bit of bias. If they'd come out with is it the Salamanders, or I don't know anything about them, would I have been as keen or as excited? But I'd say I'm going to pick up all of these, because lore-wise, I'm learning, and I like learning about 40,000. I'd love to play it. I'd love the minute. So if you live local to me and you've got a load, give me a call. Let me know in the comments below. I'll come round your house and play any time. So that's it. I am going to leave it there. I've thoroughly enjoyed reading this and reviewing it. I've learned so much about my favourite faction. That I've got 6 new NPCs to put the players, and then 12 new sort of missions to put through. Really good adventure just to get the players going and to build the lore. I think probably the only criticism I'm going to have of this book is, say, no tier 5 archetypes. Could have done with a little bit more art, I think, possibly. But beyond that, great book. So thank you, Cubicle 7, for sending this over to me. If you've enjoyed this, as ever, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you want to be involved in that sort of live play that we're going to try and do, and if we can fit it in, do join my Discord. Links will be at the bottom of the video description. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.